If you're looking for a good example of spring has sprung at Tree, but you can't really beat this iconic view into the valley of rhododendrons. Looks absolutely stunning as you head through this time of the year. A mass of colour. You've got other things coming into flower as well, like the acacias and the prostanthera. It's one of my favourite spots. It varies throughout the year with its view, but it really does look good at the moment. As you walk the garden, there's lots of little telltale signs that there's something to look at. Often it's very much above you. This magnolia is a good example of that. You can see the petals on the floor where it's starting to shed, but still looking absolutely amazing. This is Magnolia monochomata cross Camberii. It's actually got more of one parent than the other, so often with the seedling crosses they do vary quite a bit from one to another. This particular plant was planted around about 25 years ago, and as you can see, it's really sort of filling this space really well. The magnolias come in many different shapes and form and various different sizes of flower and colour, but this one is a particularly deep purple. This is called Genie. So it's a really good one for fairly sort of modest size, so it doesn't get too big, but creates quite a dramatic effect with these really deep purple flowers. This has to be one of the most striking of all of the Berberis. This is Berberis valdiviana. Nicely placed in the Chilean coombe here in a good sunny spot, and you can see how well it's doing. It's really responded to these conditions. Probably been here around about 8-9 years now, so settled in and getting a little bit of height. So it will actually make quite a large shrub and small tree, so really impressive with these racemes of orange flowers. It's a good evergreen form as well, so it keeps its interest through the winter months. There can be quite a bit of variation in seedling crosses of rhododendrons. There was a local nurseryman back in the 1900s who actually started to hybridise and cross species rhododendrons. He crossed Rhododendron griffithianum with Arboreum subspecies Arboreum. And of those seedling crosses, there were several different named ones that came out. So we had Glory of Pangeric, which is also the sister plant of Beauty of Tremeau and Triba Gem. But again, all very, very different in their colour and form. Rhododendron Gloria Pangeric is a very sort of deep pink, fading to a sort of paler pink later on, whereas Triba Gem is more of a salmon pink, and then Beauty of Tremeau is more of a sort of paler white. It never fails to amaze, just obviously the speed of growth that you get with the Gunnera as you head through towards spring. It really is one of those plants that just loves the conditions of Triba, loves this very sort of damp area, and we've had no shortage of rain, let's face it, over the last few months, so perfect just to settle in before it gets to that sort of full height once you head through into June. The evergreen azalea band, called rhododendrons as they've all been reclassified, it was a feature that we introduced probably around about 10 years ago. It was to give a bit more colour in this space when the hydrangeas are still fairly dormant. So just as you sort of head along Beach Path, head past the Gunnera, you'll come across this lovely display ranging from white through to pink and red. We actually shear these down every year, so after they finish flowering and you get that flush of growth, we'll then give them a shear down just to encourage them to get that lovely tight display of colour. And as you can see, it really pays dividends. If you're looking for good value bulbs in a garden and one that's quite adaptable, you can't beat the leucojum. This is Leucojum aestivum grativus giant. It has these really pretty snowdrop-like bell flowers, and it flowers for several months. It'll literally start with us from sort of November onwards and then carry on right the way through to the summer. They actually call it the summer snowflake, so it really does have a good long flowering period. And as I say, very adaptable, growing in very wet conditions here, but quite happy. The large leaf forms of rhododendron really do create quite a dramatic effect with these wonderful leaves, quite often with an interesting coloured indumentum underneath, but also impressive for their flowers. This particular one is Protistum var giganteum. It has these beautiful bells which really stand out against those glossy green leaves. It's one of those plants that actually likes a sort of semi-shady spot, doesn't like to be in too much heat and sun, and doesn't like to dry out too much, so you need to be very careful with selection when you're planting these. Acacias are another great source of interest, colour in particular, as we head through into spring. This is Acacia verticillata. It has a very sort of narrow form, quite spiky but very pretty, as you can see, covered in a mass of these fluffy yellow flowers. It's a real sort of favourite of mine and does well in this really sunny hot spot on Stewart Hill. I always think it's rather nice when plants have two benefits to them. So this is Prostanthera seberi. It's a fantastic display, as you can see, with these lovely purple flowers, but it also has a lovely minty scent, hence the name Australian mint bush. It's a real stone. It does really well in a good sunny, free draining position, just a little bit protected from frost, so just a bit of a canopy from above, just enough to protect them from the cold. As you head down a long lawn path, take a moment and glance across as if you're looking over the water garden, and you'll see this wonderful acacia behind us. This is Acacia melanoxylon. Looks absolutely fantastic with these very subtle yellow flowers and the very long sort of lanceolate leaves. It's a really pretty one. It does well in this position on the bank and is naturalised and has started to seed around as well.